The order did not come with options. In August 1943, while American forces were still fighting their way across Sicily, a directive arrived at General George Patton's headquarters. It was short, unmistakable, and more damaging to Patton than any battlefield setback he had suffered so far. Patton was to apologize, not privately, not quietly. He was to stand in front of American soldiers and say the words himself. Only days earlier, Patton had struck 2 soldiers suffering from what was then labeled battle fatigue. To Patton, exhaustion in combat was not an illness. It was a threat, a weakness that spread fear and hesitation through units already under pressure. In Patton's mind, discipline saved lives. Harshness prevented collapse. Compassion without control was cruelty in another form. He believed that allowing fear to go unchallenged invited disaster. But the incidents did not stay contained. Doctors protested. Officers reported what they had seen. Witnesses talked. The story moved upward through the chain of command until it reached Supreme Allied Commander Dwight Eisenhower. Eisenhower did not respond with anger. He responded with calculation. Patton would not be court-martialed. He would not be relieved of command. But he would be forced to do something far more personal. He would be made to submit publicly. The apology was not only about the soldiers Patton had struck. It was about the image of the American Army. It was about Allied unity at a time when American leadership was under close scrutiny by British commanders and political leaders back home. Eisenhower understood that the war could not afford a scandal. If Patton appeared unchecked, the Army would look brutal. If Patton was removed entirely, the Army would lose one of its most aggressive commanders in the middle of an active campaign. So Eisenhower chose the narrowest path between authority and damage control. Patton would apologize. Patton read the order and immediately understood what it meant. The slap had embarrassed the Army. The apology would humble him. Patton had built his authority on certainty. He believed discipline won wars. Weakness killed men. Fear spread faster than bullets. His reputation was built on strength, clarity, and relentless forward motion. The order attacked something deeper than pride. It challenged his identity as a commander. He was not being asked to explain himself. He was not being asked to clarify his actions. He was being asked to submit. Eisenhower's reasoning was cold but practical. British commanders were watching closely. American newspapers were waiting for proof that U.S. leadership was reckless or uncontrolled. Allied unity depended on trust, and trust depended on restraint. Removing Patton entirely would fracture momentum and morale. Ignoring the incident would suggest tolerance for abuse. The apology solved both problems at once. Public accountability without removal. Patton understood the stakes immediately. If he refused, his career would likely end. If he complied, his authority would never feel the same again. In private writings, Patton admitted the order hurt more than any battlefield defeat. He felt exposed, reduced, treated like a liability rather than a leader. But Patton also knew something else. He was not indispensable. The war would continue with or without him. So Patton agreed. He would speak the words. The soldiers were assembled without explanation. They expected orders. They expected movement. They expected the next fight. They did not expect an apology. Patton stood before them in his polished helmet and riding boots, the same general who demanded aggression, despised hesitation, and preached relentless attack. The same man who told soldiers that fear was contagious and must be crushed quickly. This time he held prepared remarks. That alone was unsettling. Patton rarely read from prepared statements. He commanded, he barked, he inspired with force of will and absolute confidence. His authority came from certainty, not reflection. Now he spoke carefully. He acknowledged his actions. He admitted he had been wrong. He stated that striking soldiers was unacceptable. He spoke about respect for the men who fought and suffered under extreme conditions. The words landed unevenly. Some soldiers stared at him in disbelief. Others avoided eye contact. A few felt vindicated. Many felt confused. This was not how generals spoke. Patton's power had always come from the belief that he would never bend, that he would never apologize, that he stood apart from ordinary men. Now they were watching him bend. The apology achieved its immediate goal. Doctors were satisfied. Complaints stopped. The press softened. Allied leadership closed ranks. But something intangible shifted. Respect was not destroyed, but it was altered. Patton remained feared. He remained admired. But the illusion of invulnerability was gone. He had been exposed, not as cruel, but as controllable. Within Allied headquarters, the message was clear. No commander, no matter how successful, stood above political necessity. Discipline was not just about soldiers in the field. It applied upward as well. Eisenhower had asserted control. The crisis ended quietly. The campaign in Sicily continued. Patton stayed in command and would later be trusted with even greater responsibilities. But the apology followed him like a shadow. It changed how Patton saw himself. It hardened him. It made him more aggressive in battle and more cautious in public. It taught him that success did not guarantee protection. Eisenhower, too, learned something. He learned how dangerous personality could be in coalition warfare. He learned that unity often required humiliation, not punishment. The judgment is not about whether the apology was justified. It is about what it revealed. Eisenhower believed unity mattered more than one man's reputation. Patton believed strength mattered more than appearances. Both were right, and both paid a price. The apology preserved order. It protected Allied unity at a critical moment. It allowed the war effort to move forward without disruption. But it permanently altered the relationship between authority and confidence. Wars are not fought only with weapons and tactics. They are fought with perception, control, and discipline at every level of command. And in Sicily, in 1943, the most powerful weapon used against George Patton was not a bullet, a court-martial, or an order to stop advancing. It was a demand.